My name is Rachel Benson, and this is my audience for the Persuasive speech. Hello, my name is Rachel Benton, and this is my speech for the argument for outsourcing from a business economic perspective. Outsourcing is a bad thing, right? Or is it? I paid $20 for this scarf. Made in China versus the $60 it's worth if made in America. As a person living in the United States, you're looking either employed or looking for employment in the United States. Most people do not want to give their job away to foreigners. But do you want to be the one who makes this scarf? Or are you going to college to learn a different set of skills? Outsourcing is commonly viewed as a negative aspect, but from the business and economic perspective, outsourcing is a positive because it provides an increase in efficiency, access to new resources, and technological improvements. Today, using peer-reviewed sources, such as the Journal of Business Ethics and Strategic Management Journal, along with a simple economics book, I'm going to review why outsourcing is truly a positive thing. In my presentation, you will hear an explanation of what outsourcing is, the benefits of outsourcing, and rebuttals to common arguments against outsourcing. Let's begin with the definition of outsourcing. Lair, on his peer-reviewed article on outsourcing and the contracting of responsibility, defines outsourcing as instances in which a company purchases goods or services once performed within the organizational structure of a company, or in-house, from an outside supplier. An example of this would be an automobile manufacturer purchasing parts for cars from an outside company instead of making this part in-house. As such, outsourcing is often characterized in terms of make-or-buy decisions. Does a company make what it needs itself, or does it need to buy it from others? Now that you know what outsourcing is, let me tell you about the benefits of it. The first major benefit of outsourcing is that it increases efficiency. Trade allows economies to specialize in what they are most skilled at. Some goods can be produced only at a low cost if they are produced in a large quantity, called economies of scale. Free trade gives firms access to larger world markets and allows them to realize economies of scale more fully, which means we are able to produce and consume much more stuff at lower costs due to outsourcing. Another advantage of outsourcing is access to new resources. Outsourcing may provide client firms with access to resources not available internally, such as organizational knowledge, physical assets, human capital, and other tangible and intangible factors that a business owns or controls, as defined by Grimp and Kaiser. A third major benefit of outsourcing is technological improvements. Each economy is able to share the benefits of technological discoveries with each other. There is an enhanced flow of ideas. The best way for a poor agricultural nation to learn about the computer revolution is to buy computers from abroad, rather than trying to make them or invent them domestically. You've probably heard these benefits arguments before and have some common arguments of your own. Let's review some fallacies and some common arguments against outsourcing. One of the most common arguments I hear against outsourcing is that it destroys jobs, when, in fact, trade between countries actually promotes jobs, with each country focusing on what they're actually best at. Manco states, free trade will overall increase the total welfare of its citizens, due to the total overall surplus in supply and demand. In the short run, it will create hardships on workers looking for new jobs. But in the long run, it will create a bigger and higher standard of living. Another popular argument against outsourcing is that it kills old industries. The answer to this argument? Yes, it will. Which is a good thing because it means there is an improvement in technology. It's like saying you wanted to keep the horse and buggy, even though you have the option of a car. A third popular argument is that outsourcing is not ethical. Outsourcing is ethical if you take an approach of rights. Robertson, Lemin, and Levine state in their article on the role of embedded issues in outsourcing that the unethical thing to do is to restrict outsourcing from happening. One way to think about it is to ask what your moral instincts tell you in similar situations. Suppose, after years of buying shampoo at your local pharmacy, you can discover you can order the same shampoo for less on Amazon. Do you have an obligation to compensate your pharmacist? If you moved to a cheaper apartment, should you compensate your landlord? In what morally relevant way, then, might displaced workers differ from displaced pharmacists or displaced landlords? If you are forced to pay $20 an hour to an American for goods you could have bought from Mexico for $5 an hour, you're being extorted. When a free trade agreement allows for you to buy from Mexico after all, rejoice in your liberation. Today, you have learned what outsourcing is, how it benefits, and how most arguments against outsourcing are fallacies. Outsourcing means better living for both you and people living in other nations. Remember, as Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, stated, "One man's wage rise is another man's price increase." We know commerce is greedy, but ideology is bloodthirsty. Thank you for listening.